All right, well, we are back and we are continuing on talking about business valuation. But as I alluded to at the end of the last segment, we're going to do a little aside here. And Bob, we are going to talk about what I know is one of your favorite topics, and that is contribution margin.
Yes. I'm a firm believer in contribution margin. Most of our clients are not familiar with this concept when we first introduce it, but it makes intuitive sense to them once they understand and we're able to explain it. It's an old, it's really an old formula. It goes back many years. Manufacturing companies were the first to really explore this, but now it's into retail, it's into technology, it's into service businesses, and it's really a way of looking at how much profit do I make on the next dollar or next unit of revenue that I can achieve. So that's a very important to know that amount because it allows you to then make better business decisions when you know how much you're going to keep or invest from that next dollar of revenue.
Now, when I hear contribution and I hear margin, Bob, generally, we hear about the net margin, we hear about the gross margin. How does contribution margin compare with those?
Sure, contribution margin is further up. It's not directly shown on the income statement unless you have a set of internal statements that itemize that, and we often do that with clients. But it's simply the revenue minus the variable cost. And you have the major variable costs listed here: direct material, direct labor, any kind of direct outsourcing, commissions, something that people don't think about sometimes, but commissions are normally on a variable basis based on the revenue, the sales, or sometimes they're paid after the collection of that. And then any other cost that changes when revenue changes, but none of your fixed costs, not rent, not insurance, not fixed salaries, none of those costs apply at this point. We're simply looking at, if I sell another unit or I have another $1, $10, $100, $1,000 of revenue, what changes to help me generate that? And it's material, labor, outsourcing, commissions, and maybe some other smaller expenses that vary with revenue.
I see. So if I sell 100 widgets or I sell 1,000 widgets, my rent is not going to change, right? I'm paying the same rent for my warehouse, but the cost that it took me to manufacture those widgets is going to change. Is that the difference we're talking about here?
That's exactly right. And maybe you're not a manufacturer, maybe you're a wholesaler or a distributor or a retailer. So it's what you paid for that widget or whatever that item is that you're selling. What additional labor did you have to put into it to finish it or convert it to its final use? Did you outsource any of that, or did you do it all internally? Did you have to pay a commission on it? So yes, it applies across all businesses. Even professional service companies use this. We see attorneys and accountants, engineering companies using this kind of analysis to understand their business better. But you're right. All those fixed costs stay the same. We're only interested in variable at this point.
Well, let's look at an example of contribution margin. So we got a drill here. We got a DeWalt drill. Says selling price is $100. I don't see many DeWalt drills for $100 now. Seems like they start at about $200.
Yeah.
But anyhow, that's a different conversation. But let's look at these numbers and how the contribution margin for this drill, this item that is being sold or manufactured, is being factored. So we've got some things up top here. We've got direct material, as you referenced earlier, piece rate labor. Bob, what do you mean by piece rate labor?
Well, that would be all of the labor that goes into actually manufacturing and assembling that drill. DeWalt either does it themselves or they have a subcontractor that all the components come together. They probably buy most of those components, and then they have an assembly process. And most of those people are paid to do, they're paid their cost may be $10 to assemble one drill. So they're able to itemize and understand what that is. They know what all the material, all the subcomponents cost. So that's your material, that's your labor. And I see you have on here freight. So that would be the freight that's necessary to transport the goods. And then almost everybody's going to pay a commission every time a drill is sold. They're either paying that to a salesperson, they're paying it to a rep group, or they may be having to pay it to a retailer for actually selling.
Multiple commissions. Yeah.
Exactly. Tiered commission structure. So there's your total variable cost, $60. It doesn't include depreciation, doesn't include utilities, doesn't include insurance, administrative salaries. All those kinds of things are not critical at this point.
So the variable cost is $60. We sold it for $100. So $100, that's our sell price, that's our revenue, minus our variable cost of $60, gives us a contribution margin of $40. And, to make the math easy here, we've used $100, so that's also a 40% contribution margin.
Yes, and that would be pretty typical in this kind of industry as well. So that $40 then is used to cover overhead, to generate a profit. And it's also, if DeWalt, for example, wanted to get into a new market channel, they know they've got $40 there to play with if they needed to reduce that selling price in order to enter a new market channel. And then they could, based on their volume and their overhead, how many do we have to sell in that new marketing channel then to break even or to make the profit margin that we ultimately want. So it gives them pricing flexibility. If that number was much lower, they might want to look at, are there ways that we can raise our pricing to get a higher contribution margin? Can we reduce the material component somewhat? Can we improve our supply chain? Can we make our plant more efficient so that our employees are making more drills per hour or per shift, and our $10 labor rate goes down to $8, not because we're paying the employees less, but because we've helped the process become more efficient, and we gain that through efficiency. We might actually be able to pay the employees more because they're more efficient, and that's something that we like to look at as well, because the company wins, the consumer wins, and the employees win, and we like to go for those triple wins.